Could power be the next growth? Could power stocks be the next growth stocks for India? I mean, there's always this big theorem, which is that India will consume more power will be required. But the problem with the power sector historically has been the entire feasibility, availability, and then the challenges at the state discom level. Anil Razdan, former power secretary, is ready. Harshvardhan Dole, vice president with IIFL Securities. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Razdan, a lot has changed. I mean, I distinctly remember when we interacted with you in your capacity as the Power Secretary of India versus now. A lot has changed. The power sector is no longer this beleaguered sector in India. Companies are making profit, policies are in place, but still there is a long way to go in terms of the discom and getting the viability right there.
It's true. See, you rightly said that things are on the mend. But we must understand that we've grown a lot from a position of extreme shortages, very low power availability, and with increasing prosperity, the per capita consumption of power also has gone up. Look at the amount of air conditioning that is available, lighting is better. But alongside a healthy development is when you see the development of low wattage electric appliances, the emphasis on energy conservation and energy efficiency. This has to go hand in hand. Coupled with that, now you see you have the emphasis on renewables, and there's certainly that is the power source of the future. But the main bottleneck seems to be, though it has showed signs of improvement in recent years, are the distribution entities, which so far are largely state-owned. But the happy part is that from about 22% AT&C losses, we've come down to about 16%. And the target is gradually to go even further. And I think this disciplining of the distribution entities in recent years, which had owed huge amounts to the generating companies, has been a game changer and will certainly be the area to look forward to. Earlier, our emphasis was only in creating more generation so that more power is available. Now power is available, then it had to be transmitted across the country. Now we've got to get ready to load in green power, renewable power from smaller segments into the grid. So the problem is in a way becoming a little more complex, but then so is the general environment of technology. We have to prepare ourselves for the new technological change. And entrepreneurs must come in. But as I said, money coming back into the system and strict enforcement of outstanding dues, cutting off power, preventing them from running to the exchanges away from their conventional sources to evade pressure. All these things combined have helped. But I think more and more the private sector gets into the business, the pressure on the government and the states will be even more. But I think the problem still lies in some states, which are very large. And with elections looming around the corner, this year is going to be very crucial. And I think the power sector has done well. The ministry has done well in laying down the rules and also trying to solve the problem. The whole, I think, effort has to be to bring the money back to the investor. Otherwise, no investor is going to come in.
Yes, sir. Harshvardhan, there is a big change in terms of how the new power capacity is getting commissioned. Tata Power, for example, has gone on record and has said that we will not be investing in additional thermal capacity. A lot of other private players are also thinking on the same lines. So for an investor, somebody who wants to perhaps benefit from this thought, what Mr. Razdan alluded to, what Prashant Jain just endorsed, that India will need more power. The power sector mess is getting cleaned up. What is the best way to participate in this, in the entire power sector? How would you address that?
See, there is no denying that while renewable is need of the hour, one cannot fully get away with the thermal plants either. So if the current scenario were to be assessed, the peak power demand of 225 gigawatt that we hit recently was being largely met through the availability of coal-based power plants. And if the current scenario were to persist, the importance of thermal assets will only incrementally rise. And in a country like India, where load variations are so diverse, I think renewable and thermal will have to coexist. That's point number one. Even CEA in their recent report have said that while there are certain thermal capacities under construction, we would need additional 20 to 22 gigawatts of new thermal capacity by 2030. So even CEA is taking cognizance that the thermal and renewables have to coexist. So there's no denying, in my view, that as the scenario unfolds and the energy consumption on a per capita basis rises even beyond 2030, uh, the technology will evolve. Coal perhaps can be even much more cleaner, and these two supplies of source will continue to coexist. That's our firm belief, and that's how we are positioning ourselves while playing the power sector.
Uh, Harshvardhan, if you have to zero it down to, let's say, a group of 4 or 5 stocks, which could be the best play on power consumption, power capex, power play, which one would you lean? Transmission, generation, distribution?
So, pickup in power demand actually benefits all the segments of the power value chain, beginning from coal and right up to distribution and the power trading exchanges. So, if somebody is actually willing to take a low risk exposure, then the transmission assets are sort of rent seeking model. And these are, favorably placed with a 3 to 5 year perspective where power grid actually stands out favorably. If someone is willing to take some operating risk and go down the value chain, then perhaps an NTPC, which is a great play on renewable as well as thermal assets, in my opinion, is selling at almost 30 cents to a dollar. It's underappreciated by almost 60 to 70%, and that continues to remain one of our top picks in the sector. And when it comes to distribution, this is one of the sweetest spots. The unfortunate part here is the growth visibility for some of these distribution utilities as of now is fairly low. And in case the distribution privatization stroke franchising picks up, then companies like CESC or a Torrent Power are well placed within that particular framework. But as of now, I think NTPC and Power Grid, these continue to be our preferred picks within the sector.
Right. Going forward, then, Mr. Razdan, just wanted to also understand your outlook, because there were some reports that indicated that the government might stop the fresh thermal capacity addition. Do you think that that could potentially happen and that it would be possible even to completely shun thermal? Sir, just request you to unmute yourself.
I think I am unmuted.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. You see, I am of the firm view and have been for some decades now that thermal power is not running away. What we need to be bothered about is now that how do we add to the baseload power, and that is where I think nuclear will have to take a quick and a bold call on it. That we have to build nuclear capacity as the cleaner baseload capacity, as China has been doing. We will have renewables. Renewables have to come, but renewables are variable and they will also need a very good transmission system, balancing system. The new emphasis on hydropower, a renewed emphasis, I think, is also timely, though there is great hope on pumped storage, which I am not very, very sure about. But in the Northeast, you see where the private sector could not take off. I think we've got to pay attention to that, improve communications, ensure that those hydro projects come up online fast. We've more or less exhausted what we have in the northern sector. And I think opening up the corridor with Nepal, building a diplomatic confidence in them that we are good clients and better clients than anybody else, With Bhutan, we already have a good relationship. So if we build on the hydro also simultaneously, it will be a great show. The other sector, I think we need to integrate and quickly build up is storage, because a lot of shift is going to take place in fuel, in automobile traction from the hydrocarbon sector into the electricity sector, charging stations. I think we are way behind in our vision and capacity if we are to add electric vehicles quickly in the future. But these are also new areas for investment, for private entrepreneurs, for new startups. Because if we start now, maybe 10 years from now, we'll be in a position to meet what we are planning to do.
Right. Right. I'd just like to come in here because we're a bit crunched on time. And Harshvardhan, wanted to get in your outlook on, the power tariffs having gone up in a lot of states. Do you think it could go up further? Do you think there could be some rollbacks?
In my opinion, there is a good chance for the power tariffs to go up because typically in India, reforms happen only during the energy crisis. And in my opinion, we are about to hit one. So most of the states are cognizant of the fact that if they want power, they need to pay more for it. And perhaps that is the reason why we are seeing states one after the other filing tariff petitions and the ACRCs finalizing. So keeping my fingers crossed that states revise tariff and the incremental losses only fall down.
Then, Mr. Razdan, great to have you both on the show and give us your take on what's lined up for the power sector.